Mpiigani, welcome to Blacknificent on Harrell Kagler Presents. I am Dr. Jamil Harrell Sims, CEO of Harrell Kagler Interventions Incorporated, and we are bringing you the 7-part series of Blacknificent, teaching you the information about us that you will never learn in school. They don't want us to know. Because to know thyself is power within itself. Today, I am welcoming another resident scholar, Dr. Mpiigani Kweli, also known as Dr. Arnett Carl Duncan. He is the Executive Director of Kweli Educational Enterprises Incorporated, the CEO of Kweli Educational Entertainment. He's the chief facilitator for the Global Sankofa Project. He has 31 years as an educator and 23 of those in K through 12. And he is an EDD in urban education leadership and a sociologist, UC Irvine and UC Riverside. Welcome, Dr. Kweli.
Thank you. Thank you. It is a pleasure and an honor to be here, to be a part of the very important work that Harrell Kagler is involved in. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you. So family, we're gonna get started. I want you all to like, share, subscribe, and comment, because we're gonna run through some stuff and I know you're gonna have some questions. Today, we're talking about us as hustlers, hustling. Talk to us about that, because it's in our blood, and people say that, well, some people want to say that we didn't build anything, and our great work in Kemet is, of course, they always whitewash it. Everything that we do has been whitewashed. So tell me about us as hustlers and builders.
Yes, well, hustling, there is the community base pejorative of hustling. And that's really not far off from what we've done. I think about brothers and sisters who have built stuff, literally out of nothing. Who took soda cans and bottles, and from there they made something, and that's hustling. So hustling is in our genes. It literally is. We have always had to go out and get what we want. We are not a people for which things have been brought to us. So we just sit back and what we want kind of just comes to us. No, we have to go out and we have to find our dinner. We got to create our dinner. If you're hungry, you got to make some food. It doesn't just come. So that mindset, that attitude is just part of who we are. And it is literally in our DNA.
Absolutely. We were talking earlier, and these revolutionary acts, hustling is a revolutionary act. Would you agree?
Yeah. Oh, when we look at a brother like Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey is Jamaican. He went from Jamaica to the United States, and in really just a few short years, he along with his associates, they built the biggest African-American organization that there's ever been. I mean, that didn't happen because people came out of the woodwork trying to give this brother money, trying to give him resources. It happened because Marcus Garvey is a good example of the hustling that it takes to come up. There are community entrepreneurs that epitomize that concept of hustling. it is one of the things that we can look at our history through. We can go back to ancient Kemet, and we can see that people, these African people, these are African people we're talking about, and I think that's settled science now. I think we shouldn't have to continue to, make that argument. Well, the Egyptians were Africans, the Egyptians were Black. No, we all know that. So we're talking about Black people when we talk about Egyptians and Kemet and Nubia and Kush. We are talking about an African people. And these people, you talk about taking nothing and creating something just from their senses, using their eyes, using their nose, their ears, their taste. They were able to create a science of medicine, map out the cosmology, and they developed math and tools that allowed them to build these structures 20-something thousand years ago that still stand now. Those pyramids, one block on those pyramids is like 200 tons. How do you move that 20,000 years ago? Well, guess what? The Africans, the people in Kemet, they figured it out. That took hustling. It's a mentality, it's an attitude. And by what they did and passing that tradition on to dozens and dozens of generations, it became literally written into our DNA.
Absolutely. I was floored listening to Brother Suja's presentation on us being here before Columbus, and the general media narrative that we just lived in huts and we don't have anything, and so many of us have not been to the motherland. You have been all around the world. I've been halfway around, and I've been to East Africa, and so have you, and so had Brother Suja. And I will say that it's interesting how they paint a picture of us as not being able to build anything. And if we build it, it's of poor quality. Yet I was in Tanzania and Zanzibar looking at buildings, slave castles that were built by kidnapped and enslaved people, that is still standing, still strong, walls, the thickness of the walls is about a foot. And then we look at the pyramids, and then we look at the Olmec statues, and even Washington, D.C. I mean, our ancestors built the White House. So we build these structures that last longer than everyone else's structures, and yet no one can understand how we did it. But when we hustle, they make it look like it's a bad thing. But without our hustling, the world wouldn't have what they have, especially this country.
Yes. Yeah. The American economy was literally built on the back of brothers and sisters who toiled in those fields over that cotton. Who grew the cotton? We did. Who picked the cotton? We did. Who do you think invented the new and improved tools to plant and harvest that cotton? You think it was the people who were never in the field, or you think it was the people who were doing that work who were saying, now wait a minute, there's got to be a better way, an easier way for me to do this? They come up with ideas. They came up with inventions, and you can look at the history of inventions in this country, and African Americans shine in that regard, especially during the antebellum period of enslavement. It's just that a Black person couldn't get a patent. So whose name got on the patent? It was the white guy. That was the name on the patent, but it was brothers who were inventing and creating farm implements that literally created the economy of the United States.
So one of the things that got my attention from our conversation previously is slavery ended in 1865. And family, we want you to understand, the purpose of today is not to talk about slavery, because that's been shoved down our throat forever. People say slaves built this country. No, kidnapped, enslaved human beings did this work. So we got to stop saying that they're slaves, because they were human beings who were tortured and enslaved. But what I found so powerful, slavery in this country ended in 1865. Dr. Kweli, what did we have before the ending of slavery?
Yeah, you talk about history, lost and stolen. I was aghast when I first came across this information. I was doing some research for a class that I was teaching, and I was looking at the history of HBCUs, and I came across a chart. There are a couple of articles that have timelines for the HBCUs, and there's a timeline on Wikipedia for the HBCUs, and it would be worth your while to search and pull that up. So the first HBCU was founded in 1837. 1837. Enslavement ends in 1865. We are literally talking about 28 years before enslavement. You have an institution of advanced learning for Black people in the United States. So that right there goes against the stereotype of what we've been taught. But we can also see, and this one really made me dig deeper, in 1863, the Civil War started in 1861, it ended in 1865. So 1863 is right in the middle, in the heart of the Civil War. We see an African American Institute of Higher Learning established in Tennessee. Tennessee was a slaveholding state. I mean, you would just think that there's like no Black people in Tennessee that can read and write, let alone need an institution of higher learning.
Show them the receipts. Show them the receipts.
Show them the receipts, exactly.
Go on and share your screen so they can see that list.
Oh, okay, let me get to that.
Because one thing about us is we've been so indoctrinated to believe that we didn't do much, or that we had to always have the help of somebody else. We don't even understand what we're hearing until we see it. So Dr. Kweli is going to show you those receipts.
Okay, so this is in Wikipedia. And we see the first HBCU. Let me just show you what I'm looking at. List of historically Black colleges and universities. So here, Cheyney University of Pennsylvania started by Quakers, but it was started for the education of African Americans. University, it says, 1837. Let's quickly come down here. I said it was 1863, it was actually 1862 where we see Lamar Owen College was founded in Memphis, Tennessee. Then look at this, look at the states: Maryland, Georgia, North Carolina, Virginia, Florida, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, North Carolina. I mean, this is in the deep South. The Civil War ended in 1865, 13th Amendment, 1865, ending enslavement. But there are African-American institutions of higher learning being founded the same year enslavement ended, all through the 1860s, all into the 1870s. So what this tells us is that when enslavement ended, we were not, we didn't come out of enslavement, needing to learn how to walk. We came out of enslavement already at a jog. And by the time we got to the mid 1880s, African Americans were in a full sprint. You've heard of the Harlem Renaissance. It's really a nationwide African American Renaissance. It wasn't simply in Harlem, New York. It was in Cincinnati. It was in Cleveland. It was in Kansas City, New Orleans. You've heard of Greenwood, Oklahoma, Black Wall Street. That town was built in the 1880s, 1890s. Rosewood, Florida. I mean, we came out of enslavement ready to get to business. Why? Because during enslavement, we were hustling. We brought traditions that were developed going all the way back to Kemet, spread across the African continent, turned into rituals and ceremonies and social traditions that get passed from generation to generation. The brothers and sisters that ended up on those boats, they brought that knowledge with them here, and it's just incorrect that all of that knowledge was lost in enslavement. We went 5-6 miles out into the woods and we held our ceremonies. We held a school, if you will, where we learned and taught. One of the powerful things I remember reading that on the ships that brought us from the continent to North America, a lot of the brothers and sisters on those ships would teach each other their language because they understood how important it was for us to be able to communicate with each other. Wherever it is we're going, it ain't nothing good. We know that. So we got to be able to work together once we get there and survive. And they use those traditions from the continent on the ships that brought us here. And then those traditions had to do it on the down low. You did have to go out into the woods, but we did that. We were hustling. And when enslavement was over, we were ready to explode, and we did.
Now, see, that is revolutionary. First of all, at the same time that we had these HBCUs being built, it was against the law for us to know how to read. So that's, and another thing, and I don't know a whole lot about politics, but I know that we had Black senators and congressmen coming right out of enslavement. And we're not taught about that. So these are the hustle. Okay, I know how to read. I'm gonna teach 5 people here how to read, and you go teach 5 people, and you teach 5 people. The hustle, like the Series A and Series B, the NOMO. Uh,
Each one
all
teaches
this
on a,
knowledge, yes, all this knowledge was already given. So we know how to build. That goes without saying. They still can't figure out how our ancestors did it. Uh, we know how to teach language. We have kept our traditions as best as we could. Now,
if I can say
how
this,
much are we worth?
if I can just say this. Now, yeah, they and they, and we know who they are.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they say they don't know how we did it, but guess what? We know how we did it. We know how we did it. Not speculation, but we actually have the linguistics and the anthropology and the archaeology that actually teaches us how we did it 20,000 years ago. So they may not know, but sometimes you don't know what you don't want to know. But we know, and we got to spread that wealth of information.
Now, we have, the dominating media that paints the stereotype and the pictures of how we are, and has the world believing that our children can't learn, and they have all these deficits and so forth and so on. But I have recently, in the last 5 years, seen many uh, 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 instances where our young children are so brilliant, they're getting college degrees before they're even old enough to learn how to drive. And I know when I was in college, there was a 13 and 14-year-old brother and sister who was in college with us, and the professors were very mean to them, but we protected them. But they had been, there's a lot of our kids are getting uh, accepted into all these colleges and universities. And what we've been told is, and not that I'm not against higher ed, because I teach in higher ed, and we're both, highly educated, but we were the tradesmen as well. And we have an amount of money that we spend every year that this country depends on. How much money as consumers do we spend?
Okay, well, is it okay if I share my screen again?
Yes.
Okay, so let's take a look at this, because this is also some very interesting information. So this is an article in UGA Today, that's the University of Georgia. Every year in their business school, they come out with a report on minority buying power, what they call minority buying power. I don't like that term. I am not a minority. I am not minor in anything. So
That's right.
that term, but that's the name of their report. So their report with regards to African and American buying power, it says that over that since 2010, so over the last 10 years, this actually goes 2018, so that's 8 years. So the numbers are bigger now. That our buying power went from 961 billion in 2010 to about 1.3 trillion in 2018. That's 114% increase since 2000. Our buying power today in 2021 is actually over 1.5 trillion. And so let's put that into some perspective. This is GDP, gross domestic product by country. That's basically how big your economy is. And if we look, 1.5 trillion would place African Americans above the country of Australia and Spain and Mexico. These are advanced industrial economies. We would be right there with South Korea, Russia, and Canada. If African Americans were a country, our economy would rank us in the top 10 or 11 in the world. So this right here shows that this notion that African Americans are these poor, broke down, ignorant, kicked to the curb on welfare, woe is me kind of people, that is not true. The numbers tell the tale. But if you get all your learning just from, your 5th grade, 8th grade, and 11th grade history class, all you're gonna know about us is that we were enslaved, and that's about it. And what that does, it paints not just a misconception about who we are, but it tells a lie about who we are, because we are hustlers. We always been hustlers, and we've always been successful, even when people tried to use every device they could to keep us from being successful. What does a hustler do? A hustler finds a way around it, and a hustler comes up. And that is a destruction of African Americans.
And I know hustling.
All right. Yep.
Just getting through the day is a hustle. Now, here's another question I have. Now, I listen to Drclaudeanderson. Shout out to Drclaudeanderson and DrBoycewatkins. And there are others. There's I don't know their name offhand, but I've seen them on YouTube. These two brothers, and they're spitting game. And what I found is, we have two issues. One issue is that other people can come into our community, set up shop, and we will give them our money. That's a problem. The other issue is, well, right now it's not even an issue, it's beautiful, is that we are starting to realize, and some of us have already known, but for those who have kind of been asleep, we realize that we're not going to be given anything. So if we don't create business, if we don't recycle our dollars, then we don't have a community. Now, what do you think about those two things?
We are positioned to do phenomenal things in the 21st century. First of all, we have to understand that the future, the global future, and I'm not saying nothing here that isn't commonly known around the world. It's commonly acknowledged that the future is in Africa. We see China, the US, European Union, Russia, they're all competing. What they are competing for is who's going to have the best deal in Africa. And the thing is, there's no colonialism in Africa now. So these other parts of the world, they have to deal with the Africans now. So Africa is doing the work, getting themselves together. They are coming up. One of the, I believe he's one of the top 5 wealthiest men in the world is an African, the family that owns Dangote Corporation. So just understanding that and keeping that fact in mind, we see something very powerful happening in African America. We have seen a number of brothers and sisters experience enormous gains. Of that 1.5 trillion, 80% of it is in the hands of 20% of the African American community. that wealth inequality that is endemic to the country as a whole is also happening in the African American community too. But we are seeing many of those brothers and sisters, they are more and more spending their money to uplift brothers and sisters in the hood. I mean, we see that happening with Akon, the things that Akon's doing on the continent, and there are so many more examples. Now, part of the challenge here is that our community has become more diverse. It's become more culturally diverse by those brothers and sisters who have had that opportunity to go to college, become professionals, and this may be, you know, grandma, great grandma who had that opportunity in 2021. That 10-year-old to 20-year-old may be living in a family that for several generations has had the opportunity to interact closely and regularly with people outside of the African American community. They take on a different attitude, they take on a different kind of action. And some people say, oh, they're just trying to act white, they're just trying to be bougie. And a lot of times that's not what's happening. What's really happening is that these are folk who are doing what they got to do to be successful in the places where they are. But one of the things, you know, I mean, I will give Donald Trump zero praise. And I'm a little disappointed that his name just came out of my mouth. But one of the things that has happened in the last 4 years is that a lot of our people have become woke. We woke up because there was a threat, a real threat to us, and we have to respond to it. And so the police don't ask for your bank statement before they put your knee on your neck, yeah, or shoot you 5 times in the back. So, right, you know, you can have $1 billion and still end up unarmed and dead by a cop who's not gonna have to pay for it. So all brothers and sisters understand our struggle is universal within the experience of our people. And they are giving more and more. They are funding projects to help entrepreneurs come up. And one last point here. The research shows this to be quite clear too. Our teenage sons and daughters, our teenage grandkids, they don't necessarily see going to college as, you know, the end all thing. That's my goal. I want to go to college. Because many of them see that as a way to get into corporate America. They don't want to go into corporate America. They want to build their own. They want to be entrepreneurs, not employees. So when you look at these factors all together, you know, we are sitting on an intellectual and economic, a cultural rocket ship that is counting down, and very soon it's going to take off, just like our people did coming out of enslavement. We're about to take off. As the continent of Africa comes up, we're going to come up too.
Absolutely. You know, I always say, you know, I guess that's just the thing that I do. I'm an advocate, a strong advocate at this point in my life. You know, I came up, we're like around in the same age group, and go to college, get a college degree. And so we did that. We went to college, and you notice the game changed. Every time we got our foot in the door, they changed the rules. And so we get to college and we graduate, and they say, oh, but you need a master's degree. So then we go get the master's degree. Oh, well, you know, you have a master's, but yada, yada. So we go get the doctorate. That's the top of the food chain. Can't get any higher than that. So we go get the doctorates, right? And then it's, oh, well, you've got doctorates, but now we don't have, you're overqualified. We don't have jobs for you. We're in Southern California, so, you know, it's majority Latino, Latinx. And so a lot of them, hey, I'm not hiring you, you're Black. Asians, I'm not hiring you, you're Black. White people, I don't, Trump, but we had 45, so I'm not hiring you, you're Black. So now it's like, and being in higher ed and seeing hardly, depending on which campus I'm teaching on, I don't see many of us. And when I do, I really try to pour in as much as I can. But I've noticed when I need some work done outside of what, you know, my husband can do, if we need something done, it's hard for us to find someone that looks like us to do it. We have to get into the trades to build, to rebuild, so that we can, you know, who wants to spend 5, 6 years in college, 7, 8 years in college, when the whole time you could be making $40 an hour as a journeyman with a skill? You know, I'm not saying that higher ed is not great, but I'm saying that $1.5 trillion that we spend economically to sustain this country, and because we love nice things, they have a clip. The clip is called Selling to the Negro. I saw it on Kweli TV, How to Sell to the Negro. And it's true, if you guys get a chance, or just Google it on YouTube and it should pop up. We do like nice things. We've always been stylish. We set the pace for the style. We set the pace for the culture. We had cock to the side, that's us. But who benefits now? You know, before we benefited when we had Wilmington, you know, agreed now, you know, Tulsa, Rosewood, we have, you know, Baldwin Hills, Adara Heights now being gentrified. We had all these wonderful communities that we built. But if we don't go back to having our kids look at, hey, maybe you could be a plumber or electrician or something, have a business, because you're right. Outside of music and being an athlete, those are the two things that everybody expects our kids to do. We have to, with that $1.5 trillion, we have to sustain our community. Every group does it. They sustain themselves, they keep their money within themselves. You know, their money stays in their community. We have to do the same, because that's power. That's power.
Yes.
That's revolutionary. That's hustling.
Yeah.
We will hustle. We'll sell you grass. And I don't mean the other kind. If you need grass in your yard, we'll hustle. We'll grow some grass and sell it to you. This is why we don't get worried about poverty, because we don't freak out. We just hustle.
Yeah, and you make a very very important point. The education system, and emphasis on the system. The education system is not where we get really educated. What does school do? It teaches us some very useful intellectual and academic skills. You know, you learn how to read, you learn how to write, you learn how to calculate, you learn some critical thinking. You know, if you've got that issue, well, should I take, should I take it for 4 years at 5%, or should I take it for 5 years at 4%. Well, you need to go to school to learn how to answer that question, because that is generally not the talk in the park. We go to school to learn those things. But where do we go to learn what to do with that knowledge? Where do we go to learn how to uplift myself personally, my family, and my community? Well, you're going to learn that in the park. You're going to learn that hanging with the brothers and sisters that you have seen who are getting it done. You're going to learn that kind of this indispensable knowledge and wisdom. You are going to learn it talking to your uncle and to your aunt. Maybe they went to college and they're going to share that with you. It's going to happen at the dinner table. That's where the real education is. And it's important that as a community that we get back to educating ourselves in the hood and not simply depend on the school, because the school, when it comes to history and psychology and political science and stuff like that, they are going to lead us astray. They are going to lie to us and might even turn up they don't even know what the truth is. That's where powerful poem, you know who Malefiasante is, the author of Afrocentricity. His son, Malefiasante Jr., many years ago, wrote a poem, and it's called Two Sets of Notes. He says, I take one set of notes to ace the test, but the other set of notes is what I'm going to use in my life when I get out of here. It is what I'm going to use in the hood. So we gotta take that technical education and apply it in a way that builds our families, our community, and puts us where we should be, and I believe where we are destined to be.
And so now that we have the push, because you and I both know that when you get a degree, you're trained to be a good employee, top employee, but you're not trained to be an employer. And I'm seeing a lot of brothers and sisters on YouTube who are now teaching in the Instagram, who are now saying, listen, I got these tools. I'm going to use them to build, and I can help you. And I have a particular book. I'm going to get it. A very powerful book.
I knew that's what you were reaching for. I knew it.
Powernomics by Drclaudeanderson. That's hustling at its finest.
Yes, definitely. I'm looking at my copy right there. Yeah.
A real hustler,
yes,
will read Powernomics by Drclaudeanderson. They'll read The Art of War.
Yes.
They will read books by DrBoycewatkins. They will learn financial literacy. They will learn what to do with their money and how to do it. And we've just, if you leave us alone, we will build. Now, that's what we do. Even, one day I thought about, coming out of the 80s and the crack era and watching all the drug dealers and watching these guys have empires. They created corporations. They were running it like a corporation. They were really corporate CEOs without the corporate. And if you look at it like that, yeah, that destroyed our community. But if you look at what they did was something that was meant to destroy, some of them, you know, they did what they did. They got out. Um, you know, what could it have been if they had the support of the community to do it the right way?
Yeah. You, you, you know, I think back to the 80s, and the 80s were a tough period for us. You know, the government made it way too easy, allowing those drugs to flow into the community. At the same time, the community became saturated with guns, and if I will. So in the 1950s, 60s, and the 70s, the police, the FBI, they did everything they can to confiscate as many weapons from Black folk as they could, because we was talking about Black power, we were talking about revolution and change, and they went on a campaign to get weapons out of the hands of Black people. But then in the early 80s, just as crack hits, suddenly all those weapons are back in the community, as crack had a debilitating effect. There was a lot of money that changed hands. There were brothers and sisters who did well. I know some of them. And I was very disappointed that they took that route. More than disappointed, angry, if you will. But in 2021, I see some of those same people who actually came up, who have that wealth and those riches. You know, once again, they are Black people, and they did not turn their back on the community, and they are helping to finance the community coming up. I'm gonna give a little shout out to, you know, the brother gets a lot of attention, but hey, he deserves it in many ways. LeBron James. LeBron James took his money. He didn't go get a loan. You know, he didn't go to the government and filling out the forms. And he took his money and opened a major school for our youth. And everything I read about that school is that it is an excellent place for our young people to go and to learn those academic skills. And they're being encouraged to return to the community and use them. I mean, that's part of what's happening now. And again, I'll say it again and again, you know, that's hustling. And that's why when we look at the rest of the 21st century, you're going to see African Americans and Africa coming up.
You know, we've had millionaires. Even in the 1800s, we had Madam C.J. Walker. You know, people think that we, again, they don't, with Black scientists, Black doctors. I mean, some people, depending on where they grow up, they don't see that. But, or they've never had a Black professor or a Black foundational Black American teacher or anything like that. And we're here. And if you've not been exposed, you think that we don't exist. And when you make blanket statements that we all live in poverty and we live in the ghetto, and I can't stand those terms, because I personally don't know very many people who live like that. Everybody I know is doing something with their life, or they're trying to figure it out, but they don't come from the bottom. I've seen the bottom, I've seen it, and it's truly the bottom. And when I saw that bottom, it wasn't just us in that bottom. There was white people in that bottom. There were Latinos in that bottom. So we, you know, and Black women are really doing some serious stuff right now. So as we climb and as we hustle and as we grow and we create, we build businesses and we learn right now. I mean, the big thing, everybody's doing stocks. Now, we weren't doing that when I was in high school, but but we're doing stocks now. We're following the markets. We're following what's going on. That is not a new thing. It's been in our DNA. Once we have the information, you know, once we tap into our ancestry, then we realize what we can do and we start to do it. And when we do that, it scares others because they're afraid of, oh my God, they're rising up. They're doing business with each other. They're creating, that's a threat to the status quo. I don't mind being a threat because we built the pyramids. You know, that's, like you said, it's in our DNA. We can understand anything that you put in front of us. It's just a matter of does it serve us or not. Some of us will learn earlier than later, you know, but financial wise, hustling, that's what we do.
Yeah, and you know that concept of hustling. It is not limited to the economic realm, because we could not move forward. We could not come up without some political intervention. It took a deep strategy in the African American community to facilitate our coming up. There needed to be some changes in the law. So we needed to get people in positions to make changes in the law. We needed to organize ourselves in the community to facilitate the kind of cultural support that could get those changes in the law, that could support solidarity in the community itself, and then create internal change. But again, we have run up against the fact that our community is now culturally diverse, and there are many of us and many of our brothers and sisters who live outside of the community are the ones that have the funds. And so our strategy in 2021 has to be one that connects and builds the bridge from, you know, the brothers and sisters with the 20%, or excuse me, with the 80% of that 1.5 trillion, and connect that with those with the 80%. We need to forge those alliances and build those bridges. And that's a new kind of problem for us. It's a new kind of a challenge for us that's going to require some innovative thinking on the political level, not just in terms of national politics, but most importantly, in terms of the politics of our own community, of how we develop structures that allow us to deal with each other. And when it comes right down to it, we also got to understand that we talk about systemic racism. Systemic racism is based on law. And so one of the best ways that we can get around that, because hustlers always find out a way to get around something, one of the best ways we can get around that is to develop a system that allows us to deal with the resources that we have without having to confront the legal structure. I mean, we got a ways to go to get there, but you know, if we hustlers, we're gonna do that work, and that's one of the primary things that I'm trying to do is to promote the ideas that allow for those strategies to be developed.
You know that's very powerful what you said, and that's something that we have to definitely. We can't keep talking. We have to do. But I don't know how many people realize that the wealthiest man that ever lived in history was
Mansa Musa, Mali, yes,
yes,
Mali, yes,
yes. Mansa Musa was the richest man ever in history, and he was African.
yes.
Our first millionaire in the United States was Madam C.J. Walker. We have quite a few millionaires now, and part of that is because of entertainment. But I'm trying to think of the brother's name who just gave a lot of money to Morehouse. I'm going to get his name in just a moment. In fact, he's a billionaire.
Yeah.
Okay, so here is, we have quite a few. His name is Robert Smith.
Robert Smith, yes.
Robert Smith. So we have just some of our millionaires. And here's our billionaires: Mike Adenuga, Robert Smith, David Stewart, Abdul Samad Rabio, Oprah, Strive, Masayiwa, Patrice Motsepe. There are, and this is worldwide, there are 12 Black billionaires in the world as of 2020. 12, that's billionaires. We're not even talking about the numerous millionaires that we have. And since social media, we have overnight millionaires. We have athletes, we have actors and actresses, directors, and before they weren't sharing, I don't know if it's true, but there was a rumor that in professional sports, you have a clause that you're not supposed to do anything for the Black community. I don't know if that's true or not. But I noticed that recently, since LeBron and, Magic Johnson, Erwin Johnson, and some of these athletes who have invested back in the community, it's starting to really come back to that. I mean, even Beyonce has some money set aside for Black businesses. So this is another renaissance.
Yes.
We have the hustle. We'll hustle shea butter. We'll hustle incense and oils. I have respect for the brothers that's on Crenshaw with the incense oils and the t-shirts, because he's not working for someone else. He's working for himself. He has a product and he's out there selling his product, and that's what we do. And when I was in East Africa, I mean, it's nothing to walk down the street and see the whole street is a marketplace. Mm-hmm. Everybody's selling something. Everybody's out working and hustling and getting their money in, and but they have that community vibe where, okay, I made this and you didn't make any and you need to eat, so I'm gonna feed you. And so those are the things I experienced there. Here, we have the extended family. And if we stay in our African mindset, if we just learn more about it, then we'll realize just how important it is for us to look out and do for self.
Yes, 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 yes. years ago, many years ago, before I got to the continent, someone was telling me how horrible it was that for miles there are all these people on the side of the road, and they're so poor, and they're just trying to sell you any little thing, and it was heartbreaking. And then I went to the continent, and I saw those people on the side of the road, and it's like, wait a minute, these people aren't poor, they're entrepreneurs. This is their business. They successfully take the food that they grow, and then they bring it to the side of the road and they sell it. People make clothes and they sell it on the side of the road. You know, it may not be the Crenshaw Mall, but it is the mall on the outskirts of Nairobi. And the reason why I know these people weren't poor is because they were happy. These were people that were so energetic and upbeat. They were making money. I'm sure they would want to make more, but what they were doing was happening within the context of their culture. Not a very westernized way of doing things, but that's okay, because I think that those hustlers, you know, they don't have a system of racism there, because they've developed a system that allows them to get around that. And so there again is something we have to do, and maybe it starts by us patronizing the brothers and sisters that are out there on Crenshaw, on Slauson Avenue. By doing that, we can get around the system of racism because we are dealing with each other. And just to be clear, one of the reasons why in much of the continent there is not systemic racism is because the people that you do business with, well, they look just like you. And if we do that, then we can take that whole racism issue completely out of the equation. And we can get around it by us dealing with us. Because, you know, I was with a group of people, one person asked, and we were in Nairobi, a person asked, is there much racism here? And the cab driver turned and he looked and he said, racism? It's like, look at us. We are all Black.
Well, yeah, we again, every community looks out for their own first. You take care of your house first. You know, the Asians take care of their house. They do business with each other. You'd be hard pressed to find them do business outside of themselves.
Very true.
East Indians, Arabs, same thing. Latinx, same thing. It is natural to want to do that. It doesn't mean that you won't spend your money with others. It just means that a certain percentage of that money gets recirculated. And we have been indoctrinated to believe that we can't trust each other, and not understanding historically, we had prior to segregation, prior to integration, we had all these businesses. We did business with each other, partly because we couldn't go outside of that. But the other thing is, and this is not going to be popular for anybody here, but I speak truth to power, and whoever can handle it, can handle it. Once integration came, our businesses, you know, they went away because now everybody wants to go spend their money where they weren't allowed before. And so, so our dollar didn't circulate as much as it should have. And in order for us to take full responsibility for ourselves, we have to recirculate that dollar. So we have to understand that these towns and cities that were well-to-do, we have to know that they existed, and we have to know that we had Black-owned banks.
Oh,
We
yeah.
had a Black-owned insurance company. In fact, there's a new one, Greenwood Bank. We've been doing this, but you don't know about it because it's not taught to you. And so I encourage everyone to do some research, look at some YouTube videos. I'm gonna put some stuff in the video so that you can click on it and know where to go to get some of this information. I know you have comments. I know you have questions. We were just, you know, we planned it one way, but we found that just having the conversation was easier. Dr. Kweli, you want to close with some information or anything? Last words?
Yes, yes. You know, I prepared a nice deep presentation, but the technology just went kind of crazy. But I think that what we've done here, this conversation, much more personable, and I think much more on point. So I would end with this. We are on the way up. I mean, that is a quantitative fact. What we have to do to push ourselves forward like a rocket ship is cultural. It is cultural. It is political. Not dealing with the powers that be. I mean, I'm glad that, Joe Biden's not Donald Trump, but Joe Biden ain't coming to save us. You know who's going to save us? We are. And so we have to come together, and we got to get done what we know we got to do. And the thing is, it's in our blood, it's in our DNA, because we are natural hustlers.
I like that. Natural hustlers. Again, stop. There's no savior coming to save us. We got to save ourselves.
You my savior.
Huh?
You my savior.
I'm okay.
And I'm yours.
Okay. We have to, because they, you know what? Since 1492, no one's going to care about us like we do.
That's right.
No one is going to care like we do. And so it's time for us to stop playing around and stop looking for answers. We know what the answer is. The answer is do for self. The answer is get in the community, do the work, find some people you can work with, put it together, buy the hood.
Yes.
Buy the hood. Shout out to ancestor Nipsey Hussle, who did just that. He started to buy the hood. Shout out to everybody who's doing their part, trying to stop gentrification, trying to create jobs, trying to serve our needs. Shout out to all of you for your hard work. Again, I want to thank Dr. Kweli for spending this time with us. I think the conversation is very relevant, and we've got some more coming. Dr. Kweli, thank you so much. Asante Sana, Baba, for enlightening us today. Click like, share, make a comment, subscribe. This is Blacknificent, and we hustling. Peace out. Shalom. Hotep.
Hotep.
Hotep.